Hello everyone. In this lecture we are going to talk about managing project and deliveries. In the project management we have many terms that we need to understand very clearly to accomplish the project. The first one is the planning steps that we need for accomplishing any kind of projects. In the steps of planning, we have 5 main steps. The first one is defining the project scope. What does that mean? It means clearly defining the project objectives, deliverables, and constraints. The second one is determining the project goals. It means that establishing measurable and time-bound goals for the project. The third one is the design process. Design process means break down the project into some tasks, into some other work packages, creating a timeline and allocate the resources for the different tasks. The fourth one is the process planning. Process planning means establishing the project management approaches, communication canals, and the risk management strategies. The fifth one is the final reviews and building. It means we have to conduct reviews, make adjustments for the projects, and implement the project according to the plan. We have to remember that adaptability and flexibility is very important in the project planning, because in the projects we may have some changes, so our plan should be very flexible to adapt with these changes. In the project management we have a scope management. Scope management involves controlling a project's goals and objectives by defining or managing or maybe controlling what's included and excluded from the project scope. It sets like the boundaries and context of the work to be done, and it ensures that the project remains focused on its intended outcomes. There are some activities, or we can say key activities, in the scope management that will include the conceptual development and scope reporting, scope statement creation, and project closeout, work authorization, and implementing a control system. Conceptual development explores and analyzes or refines ideas and concepts to define the project or the project purpose or objective. So it is very important, and this is the initial phase of the project or the scope management. The scope reporting means, or we can say scope reporting monitors and reports on the status of the project's scope, including any changes or deviations. The scope statement is a document that outlines the project scope and the project's objectives and deliverables, or maybe constraints and stakeholder sign-offs. Here we have some assumptions for the project's objectives and deliverables. The project closeout involves completing all the project activities. In the project closeout, all the project's activities will be closed, obtaining the stakeholder sign-offs. conducting the reviews, and archiving documentation. Work authorization grants permission to the start or process with specific project activities. Project control system monitors and measures and adjusts the project activities to ensure alignment with the goals and objectives. Here we can address the deviations or issues that may arise. These concepts and terms in the project or in the scope management are essential for effective scope management. It enables the projects to stay on track and achieve their intended goals. Conceptual development. Conceptual development is a process of exploring and identifying effective ways to meet the project objectives. Conceptual development involves developing conceptual framework and generating ideas. There are some key steps in this phase that include creating a problem or need statement, and gathering requirements and information, and considering the constraint is conducting alternative analysis, defining the project objectives, and preparing the business case. These terms are essential in the early stages of the project to assess its purpose, or to assess the requirements and feasibility of providing a foundation for the planning and decision making throughout the project life cycle. We have another term called a statement of work, or we can say SOW. The statement of work is a document that outlines the key details and expectations of a project. It serves as a formal agreement between the client and the contractor or project team. Here we have the main component is of SOW. The first one is introduction and background. Introduction and background. This phase or this term provides an overview of the project and sets the context. It includes a brief introduction to the parties involved and the purpose of the project, or any relevant background information that helps the stakeholders understand the project's scope and objectives. The second one is timeline and milestones. Timeline and milestones. The SOW should include a timeline that outlines the project's major phases or activities and the key milestones of the project. This one provides a high-level view of the project schedule and helps the stakeholders understand the project's expected duration and critical deadlines. The third one is technical description of the project. This section provides a detailed description of the project's technical aspects. It outlines the specific requirements, deliverables, and technical specifications of the project. It may include details such as desired features, functionalities, performance criteria, and any necessary technical standards or guidelines. Statement of work components. We have these main components of the statement of work, like background, scope, selection criteria, place of performance, period of performance, security, deliverables, task or requirement as objectives. These are the main components of the statement of work. Project charter. The project charter is typically created after the statement of work. Okay, and it serves as a formal document issued by the project initiator or the sponsor of the project, we can say, to authorize the existence of the project and provide the project manager with the authority to utilize organizational resources for project activities. The project charter is an essential document that provides a clear mandate for the project manager and sets the stage for effective project governance. It ensures that that all stakeholders are aligned on the project's purpose, on the project's scope, or the objectives, and it establishes the foundation for project planning and execution. Scope statement. Scope statement is a concise document that defines the objectives, deliverables, and boundaries or constraints of a project. It outlines what is included and excluded, or identifies a project dependencies and stakeholders. And scope statement serves as a foundation for the project planning and ensuring a common understanding among stakeholders and guiding decision making to prevent scope creep and maintain the project focus. In the scope statement, it established project goal criteria to include the cost, schedule, performance, deliverables, review, and approval, the gates. It is scope statement creates a baseline as we discussed it. It creates a baseline and the work breakdown structure that's very important to manage the projects with procedures. Now we have to understand what is work breakdown structure. Work breakdown structure is a hierarchical decomposition of project scope into smaller manageable components. As we see here, this is the project and it has been divided into two main phases, and these phases are divided into some other work packages, and these work packages are divided into some activities. This is called work breakdown structure. That's very important in any kind of project. It organizes and defines the total scope of the project and or in a deliverable oriented manner. Each descending level of the WBS represents a more detailed definition of a project component, breaking down the work into smaller and more manageable pieces is one of the key components of the project planning. These components can be products or services that contribute to the overall project deliverables. The work breakdown structure helps us with project planning, resource allocation, and task management that provides a structured framework for the work execution. So it means when we are breaking down the project into smaller pieces, these pieces will be more manageable and will be easier for execution. Defining work packages. Work packages, or we can say a work package, is the lowest level of work breakdown structure. Okay, the smallest or the lowest level of the work breakdown structure. It represents a discrete and manageable unit of work within a project. A work package defines a specific task or activity, or we can say a deliverable that can be assigned to an individual or a team and has a clear start and end pointers. So we can say, for example, in the phases of the project management, actually we cannot assign the phases to individuals. But if we break down the phases into smaller pieces like work packages, we can easily assign people or assign groups or teams to these small units of work. Work package, we can say, contains all the necessary information and resources required to complete the work, such as specific requirements, timelines or dependencies, and allocated resources. Work packages are normally typically the building blocks of project planning and execution that allow for effective tracking, monitoring, and control of the project progress for accomplishing or getting the desirable goals of the project. Partial work breakdown structure. A partial work breakdown structure refers to a subset or section of the complete WBS for a project. It represents a portion of the project scope that has been decomposed into its hierarchical components, but it does not include all the levels and details of the entire project. A partial work breakdown structure or a partial WPS focuses on specific areas of work package within the project. This provides a more detailed breakdown of those specific elements while excluding other parts. It serves as a useful tool for planning, organizing, and managing specific sections of the project, and it allows for greater visibility and control over those defined portions. We have another term called organizational breakdown structure. What is organizational breakdown structure? It is a hierarchical representation of an organizational structure that identifies the organizational units and their relationships within a project. It provides a visual depiction of the project's reporting and communication lines. It shows how project responsibilities and resources are distributed across the organization. The OBS typically includes departments, teams, or functional units, and it shows how they are linked to specific project activities or work packages. The OBS helps to clarify roles or responsibilities and accountability within the project. This facilitates effective communication and effective coordination and decision making across the organization. This is why it is very important. It is sometimes used in conjunction with the work breakdown structure to align the project tasks with appropriate organizational units. Um, Responsibility assignment matrix. Responsibility assignment matrix it also known as RACI matrix. It is a chart or table that defines and communicates the roles and responsibilities of individual or groups within a project or process. So we can say a process or a project because sometimes we have some process for accomplishing a specific goal. It visually maps out the tasks and the activities or work packages of the project and assigns responsibility and accountability to specific individuals or roles. Uh, the matrix typically uses the uses some keys of the management principles to assign these responsibilities to the individuals. Um, this is one example, one typical example of the work of the responsibility assignment matrix that we can say, for example, this is the project initiation task is task 1, task 2, task 3, and we have the project executive project manager, business analyst, and technical. So we have all the types of the individuals here. So these people are assigned in these tasks are represented in letters in these matrices, so we can easily find out who is responsible for what. This sometimes the responsibility assignment matrix help us to clarify the expectations and improve the communication, and also ensure effective project management by clearly defining who is responsible for each task and who needs to be consulted or informed. Work authorization. Work authorization is a formal approval or authorization granted to begin work on a project or a task. It signifies that all necessary requirements or considerations and contractual terms have been met and documented. Work authorization is typically issued through various formal documents such as award letter, purchase order, or contract agreement, and permit to work document. This depends on the nature of the project or organization. These documents outline the contractual obligations, agreed upon terms, and provide the necessary legal and formal basis for initiating and carrying out the work. Work authorization ensures that all parties involved in the aligned and all parties are aligned and have the necessary approvals and permissions to commence the specified work activities. So contractual documentation poses some key identifiable features like contractual requirement is valid considerations, contract terms, formal documents. Um, we have this document, as we see, um, permit to work. This is a permit to work document. Uh, Actually, permit to work document is a formal document or system that uses to authorize and control to work activities. So it serves as an authorization from the relevant authority outlining specific safety procedures like precautions and work descriptions for the job. Um, Project control system. A project control system uh, is a comprehensive framework consisting of processes, tools, and techniques used to monitor and manage various aspects of a project. Its project control system enables project manager and stakeholders to maintain visibility, make informed decisions, and ensure project success. This system includes establishing a baseline plan or measuring performance against it, and managing changes, and mitigating risks, resolving issues and defects, reporting progress to the stakeholders, and ensuring adherence to the quality standards. By implementing the project control system, project managers can effectively monitor project progress and identify the deviations, and then take corrective actions if they needed, and ultimately ensure the project stays on track to achieve its objectives within defined constraints. This is these aspects in the project it will be monitored throughout the project lifecycle, like estimation, budgeting, earned value management system, cost control, scheduling, and also performance measurement baseline. Project deliveries, or project deliverables, we can say. Project deliverables, also known as the project deliveries, sometimes they have been used in different resources, like different words. They are a tangible, or we can say intangible or results that are produced or provided as a part of a project. These deliverables represent the desired and products or services that the project aims to achieve. They can take various forms depending on the nature of the project and objectives. We have some steps, like the first one is the handover from sales, startup or internal and customer kickoffs, execution, inspection, then delivery, site installation, acceptance and handover, closeout, and then warranty. Um, Scope reporting. Uh, Scope reporting is the process of documenting and communicating the progress or changes and the status of the project scope throughout its life cycle. It involves tracking and reporting on the scope baseline, which includes the project's defined objectives, deliverables, and boundaries. It determines what types of information are reported, and who receives the copies, and when, and how information is acquired and disseminated. we have the typical any project report should typically contain these informations like project status, core status, schedule status, technical performance status, and HSE management plan. So this is like a report that we prepared in a project. So it's a typical one. Configuration management. Configuration management is a discipline that focuses on systematically managing and controlling changes. The changes that happened in the project lifecycle or throughout the project, a change may happen in the resource allocation or any kind of changes. Configuration management, as we said, it's a discipline that focuses on systematically managing and controlling the changes within the project. In the project lifecycle, many times the project will happen. The changes will happen due to the lack of the resources, or maybe sometimes the budget requirements of the project. So these changes should be managed, and corrective actions should be taken to adapt with these changes. It involves the identification, documentation, tracking, and control all the configuration items, which can include hardware, software, documentation, and other components. Configuration management, we can say, it is a system of procedures that monitors emerging project scope against the baseline. So the baseline, it means what we have planned for. It requires documentation and management approval on any change to the baseline. What is baseline? Baseline is the project scope fixed at a specific point in time. For example, the project is scheduled start date. So this is what you have planned for. So when a change will happen to this baseline, so we have to take some corrective actions and configure the project with the changed items. Project changes. Project changes. This occurs for one of the several reasons, like the initial planning errors, either technological or human, additional knowledge of the project or environmental conditions, uncontrollable mandates, client requests. Sometimes the requests of the client will change something or some tasks in the project. So managing the project changes involves effective change control process, which include documenting the change requests or assessing their impacts and considering the feasibility and making informed decisions on whether to approve or reject the proposed changes. Change management ensures that the project modifications are properly evaluated, communicated, and implemented to minimize the disruption, or maintaining the project objectives and mitigate the risks associated with the change. Project closeout. Project closeout refers to the final phase of a project where activities are undertaken to formally complete or wrap up and transition the project to its intended stakeholders or operational state. Project closeout involves a series of tasks and processes aimed at ensuring that all project objectives have been met. or deliverables have been produced and project closure is properly executed. Project closeout marks the official end of the project, the official end of the project, and provides an opportunity to celebrate achievements or capture valuable knowledge like feedback and facilitate a smooth transition to subsequent activities or projects. Uh, Project closeout ensures that all project-related activities are properly concluded, and also stakeholder expectations are met. This is very important, and the project is formally closed in a controlled and systematic manner. Closeout documentation is used to resolve the disputes, train project managers, facilitate auditing. The closeout documentation includes historical records, post-project analysis, financial closeout. These documentation is very important for the future projects and providing valuable feedback for the project achievements. Thank you very much. This was the lecture of the project management and deliveries. This lecture has more detail in what we have uploaded for our e-learning system, so we can have you can have a look on it. So if you have any questions, you can ask me in the class or maybe through the email. Thank you very much.